Hello and welcome. We're working on lesson number 10 of module 4. So make sure that you have either the printed out worksheets or have the PDF on one screen and this on another, and then have a piece of paper to write. Whatever way works best for you. You can certainly write this all down on a piece of paper, but you need to be able to see the problems while we're working on them. So you do need to have it up as well. Alright, so let's get started. So today our goal of this lesson is just working on multiplication expressions and how to write them out in either an expanded way or a simplified way. So if we think of numbers when we multiply, we could multiply something like 5 times 7, right? If we wanted to multiply by 5 by 7, multiplying 5 and 7, we always would write like this. There's only one way. I mean, I guess you could write it up and down, but you know, there's only one combination of symbols that you can use. But it's different if you are using, there's one combination we usually use. It's different if we're using variables. So if we wanted to just say A times B, we could also write A times B. I guess that works with 5 and 7, right? So 5 times 7 would work. We could write like this, and I've shown you this way before. We can also do A, B, like that. No symbol, just 2 letters next to each other. We can't do that with 5 and 7 because look what happens. We get 57. Well, that's a totally different number. So that method doesn't work. The last way we can write it is A, B, like that. We could do A, B, or A, B. Both of those would also work. That does work with 5 and 7. So I could do 5, 7, or 5 times 7, or 5. No, actually, I think that last way doesn't work. So we'll leave it like that. All right, so this is the only one. And slash A, not applicable here. But otherwise, all of those methods do work. So you've got a couple different ways to write out multiplication. And because of that, we're going to be able to rewrite multiplication problems with fewer symbols sometimes. So let's look at example 1. Example 1 has the question, write each expression using the fewest number of symbols and characters. Use math terms to describe the expression and parts of the expression. So for A, we get 6 times B. Like that. It's written this way. Now, I know I can rewrite this in a much easier way. 6B. The 6 is the coefficient and a factor, and B is our variable in a factor. So we can say it's the sixth, we can call 6 the product. 6B is the product, basically. So I'm going to write this out. So the 6 is the coefficient. And a factor. And the B is the variable in the factor. So we can call (6B) the product and we can also call it to a term. Yikes. All right, you might to pause this so that you can write it on your own. So go ahead and pause it, write it on your own paper, and we'll move on. So for B gives us a little bit longer of a problem. 4 times 3 times H. 4 times 3 times H. Now with this, because we've got 4 and 3, we want to shorten that as much as possible. Well, 4 times 3 I already know is 12, so let's just work with the 12. I can't multiply by H and get a number, so instead we're going to end up with 12H. Now once again, the 12 is the coefficient and a factor, and the H is the variable and a factor. We can call 12H the product, and we can also call it a term. So you're going to be using pretty much the same words as in A, but different numbers. All right, C, 2 times 2 times 2 times A times B. Yikes, 2 times 2 times 2 times A times B. Oh my goodness. That is so confusing looking. So let's shorten that up. I can look at the numbers first. 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, well that's 2 cubed. I already know that's going to be 8. So we've got 8. And then we've got A, B. 8AB. So here, 8 is the coefficient. And both A and B are the variables. They're both factors, and all three are factors. And we know 8AB is the product and also a term. Lots of math words here. Okay, so variables always follow numbers and should be written in alphabetical order. That's really important to know. We are not going to write it as B8A. We're not going to write it as BA8 or AB8. We can't even write it as 8BA. We always have to put the number first, followed by the letters in alphabetical order. Okay? Always have to write it that way. Always and forever. On into high school, that's what you'll be doing. And college, potentially. So, let's move on to D. 5 times M times 3 times P. 5 times M times 3 times P. So here, we have to look at the numbers first. Numbers are going to be the first thing we put in here anyway. So I'm seeing a 5 and I'm seeing 3, and we're multiplying all of this. So 5 times 3 is 15. Well, here, let me show you. We can rewrite this in any order, right? Multiplication is going to be equivalent if I rewrite it in any order. So I'm going to do 5 times 3 times M times P. That makes it easier. And then I see this right here. So I can do 5 times 3 is 15. And then M and P, MP, it has to be in alphabetical order. So 15 MP is going to be my answer here. 15 MP. Now in this case, 15 is the coefficient. M and P are both variables. So 15 is a coefficient and a factor. M and P are variables and factors. 15MP is the product, and it is also the term. So if it is helpful, we can always gather the numbers together and the variables together. Like in this case, when I had to do 5 times 3, and then write M times P. That way we can do this, or we can do this that way because of the cumulative property of multiplication, which we've already discussed last week. So let's go on to E. E is 1 times G times W. 1 times G times W. Now, with this, yikes, we've got, well, we could write it this way, 1GW, right? But 1, multiplying by 1, is an example of the identity property. Any number times 1 is equal to that number. So therefore, we don't always need to write the 1, because 1 times GW would just be GW. And so our most simple way of writing this is just GW. Okay? That 1 does not change the value of anything, so we don't have to write it. Okay, let's move on now to example 2. Example 2 asks us to do the opposite. So just now we were simplifying, we were trying to make it shorter. Now we're going to try the opposite and try to expand our multiplication expressions, which will sometimes come in handy when we're solving algebraic expressions and equations. So to expand multiplication expressions, we will rewrite the expression using the dot. We're not going to use the x, we're going to use the dot as much as possible, because otherwise it gets kind of confusing on, okay, is that the letter x or not? Because I now know that 8x z is potentially 2 variables being multiplied by 8. But if I rewrite it as 8 times z, I now know there's only 1 variable. If I rewrite it this way, if I write the x, it gets a little too confusing on, okay, is that an x because you're multiplying, or is that an x because that's a variable? So we're not going to use the x, we're going to use that dot as much as we can. So let's look at A. We get 5G. Great. What numbers are being multiplied by in this situation? We've got our coefficient of 5, and we've got our variable of g. Those are being multiplied together. So we write it as 5 times g, using that dot so we don't get confused. And that's it. Move on to B. 7ABC. I like that they've got that in alphabetical order, and it's super obvious. So we've got our number 7, our variable A, variable B, and variable C. 7 times A times B times C. Great. All right, if we look at C, we're given 12G, right? 12G. Now, we could write this as 12 times G, right? But I'm looking at this, I would like to make this as long as possible. So here, what I want to do to make it longer is I'm going to actually break up this 12. So I'm thinking, what if I do 2 times 2 times 2? Let's see, that gives us, well, actually 2 times 2 times 3. Sorry, 2 times 2 times 3. That makes more sense. 2 times 2 times 3. Because 2 times 2 would be 4, and then times 3 makes it 12. But this is a longer, more broken out version. So 2 times 2 times 3 times g. That's the longest way we can write this without adding in ones or anything like that. So 12 can't be broken down into anything further than 2 times 2 times b times 3 unless we include ones. All right, D. 3h times 8. Okay, 3 times h times 8. Cool. And E. 7g times 9h. So I can write 7g times 9h. I can rewrite this 7g as 7 times g times 9 times h. But once again, that 9 can be broken into even more numbers. 7's a prime number. It can't be broken down. But I can break up 9 into some prime numbers. Let's try 7g times 3 times 3 times h. This is so much more expanded, which is our goal here. Okay, let's look at example number 3. This is our last example. After this, you move on to exercises. Actually, you don't have an exercise here. You get to skip the exercise because in this lesson, the exercise involves playing a game of bingo, which you cannot do by yourself. I know. It's one of those things you can't do. So you guys get to miss out on that, but that's all right. Let's go ahead and look at example 3. So write the product of 4f times 7g. 4f times 7g. So to find the product, well, it may be easier to see how we will use the fewest number of symbols and characters by expanding the expression first. So we're going to first start out by expanding. We've got 4 times f times 7 times g. All right? Now, we can multiply the numbers and then multiply the variables. So let's start. We can suddenly say, okay, 4 times 7 times f times g. Let's rewrite it using that cumulative property of addition, or multiplication, sorry. 4 times 7 times f times g. And then we can multiply it out. So 4 times 7 is 28 times f times g, which we just write like that, 28fg. Now this is only true because all of these things are being multiplied together. If I wasn't multiplying these things together, if I was doing 4f plus 7g, this wouldn't work. 4f plus 7g is already simplified, but because we're multiplying it out, that's why we're able to do it all like this, okay? So I do want to make sure that that's very clear. This is only true because we're only working with multiplication. As soon as you add in addition or subtraction, this totally changes. But because we're multiplying that f and that g, then we're able to do it this way. All right, B, multiply 3de times 9yz. Yikes. 3de times 9yz. Yep, all right. That's crazy town, right? So again, let's start just by expanding the expression. We're going to make it even longer. So 3 times d times e times 9 times y times z. Whew. A lot of that is nonsense, but that's okay. So let's rewrite it so that our numbers are grouped together, our letters are all in alphabetical order. All right, 3 times 9 times d times e times y times z. Just rewriting it in any order thanks to the cumulative property of multiplication. And now we can start simplifying this a little bit more. So we can say, okay, 3 times 9 is how much? 27. And then we don't need all these multiplication symbols here because we're working with variables. So it's 27 d, e, y, z in alphabetical order. 27 d, e, y, z. All right? Okay. Getting towards the end, last problem to do together. So C says double the product of 6y and 3bc. So first, we're going to just start with the product of 6y and 3bc. We'll come back to that doubling. So let's start with 6y and 3bc. So 6y times 3bc, because it said the product. So 6y times 3bc. We're going to rewrite this in an expanded form. 6 times y times 3 times b times c. Then we'll rewrite it with the numbers next to each other. 6 times 3 And, at this point, let's rewrite it with the letters in alphabetical order. So times B times C times Y. And now I can say, okay, 6 times 3 is 18, B, C, Y. Like that. But wait, there's more. Billy Mays here with doubling. Well, what does doubling mean? We're doubling this product. Doubling just means to multiply by 2, right? So we take our 18 BCY and we're going to multiply it by 2. So 2 times 18 BCY is really our problem here. Doubling the product, that's what it asked us to do. So now I have to multiply that out. Well, what's 2 times 18? 36. B, C, Y. Finally, we've got our answer. I'm going to circle it because we've written so much. I want to make sure our answer is super obvious. So all we had to really do was find the product and then multiply it by 2. That wasn't as complicated as I thought it was. But it did take a lot of work and a lot of patience. You're going to find yourself in situations like this on your homework and on future lessons. So just make sure that you know each step is not that hard. It's simply a matter of doing the right steps in the right order. And that's where I can come in handy and help you if you ever need help guiding what to do, okay? If you've got any questions, please reach out, let me know, email me, do whatever it takes. I am here to help you, but I can only help you if I know you need help. Have a great rest of your day, and don't forget to do the problem set.